Thank you so much for joining us for our next pet parent webinar in the PetSure Paws Learn series. I'm Danny Houlihan, Chief Veterinary Officer at PetSure, and I'm your host and moderator for today's session. Tonight's webinar on getting the most out of your pet insurance is brought to you by PetSure and Dr Oliver Conradi. PetSure is a company of animal lovers, providing a sense of security to pet parents through pet insurance. PetSure powers the pet insurance propositions of many well-known brands, including Woolworths, RSPCA, and many others. Additionally, PetSure has revolutionised the claim experience with the development of Gap Only. If you'd like to find out more about PetSure or Gap Only, please visit our website. Before we begin, I'd like to run you through some housekeeping items. The webinar will run for 45 minutes, followed by a 10 to 15 minute question and answer session. On the screen, you should see a control panel to your right. If you experience any problems during the webinar, please submit your issue within the question panel and we'll try and resolve it for you. During the webinar, all phone lines will be muted to reduce background noise. If you have a question for the presenters, please post your question in the question panel. The speaker for tonight's webinar is Dr Oliver Conradi. Prior to joining PetSure, Dr Conradi worked as a small animal veterinarian in Sydney, treating dogs, cats, pocket pets and native wildlife. Having grown up with dogs and cats, he quickly developed a passion for all animals, large and small. He undertook his veterinary training at the University of Sydney and came to the realisation quickly being a veterinarian and working with animals was the perfect fit. Feline medicine and infectious diseases are areas of veterinary medicine he finds particularly fascinating. His interest for these led to research into novel feline herpes viruses, and he contributed to published research. He enjoys all aspects of being a vet, but particularly acting as a steward for the health and welfare of animals and helping foster the incredible bond we have with our pets. Oliver is PetSure's Customer Relations Manager, and with a tenure close to 5 years, has intimate knowledge and experience of pet insurance. Using his veterinary knowledge and experience, he leads a team responsible for supporting vulnerable customers, managing complex claims and disputes, as well as contributing to enhancing PetSure's products. Working in clinical practice and seeing firsthand the significant benefits offered by pet insurance for animal welfare, pet owners and vets, he was particularly drawn by the opportunity to work at PetSure. Oliver and his wife are proud parents to Jack, a very loved and spoilt 3-year-old Chihuahua cross, who they rescued from Blacktown Pound. So without any further delay, I would now like to hand you over to Dr Conradi. Hey Ollie, it's Danny. Apologies. I think you're still on mute, so if you could go off mute, that would be great.
Hi Danny. Hi, sorry about that. All right. So did you hear anything that I said there, or was I on mute the whole time?
No, we didn't. If you could start from the top, that'd be great.
Yeah, sorry about that. All right. So I just want to say thanks for that lovely introduction. I did a very cliche, kept myself on mute there in this day and age, but sorry about that. Hopefully you all saw Jack just before, so he's been a key contributor for this evening's webinar. Hopefully my webinar was switched on. I think I got that part right, and he actually helped me pick out a lot of the content, so he definitely deserves some of the camera time there. And thank you all for joining me. And tonight is all about teaching you all how to become a pet insurance expert and how you can get the most out of your pet insurance policy. And just a reminder that any advice provided is general only and hasn't considered your personal circumstances, so may not be right for you and your pet. Okay, so let's have a look at the topics we're going to cover off this evening. So first we'll do what I like to call basic training for pet insurance. So looking at those fundamental features of pet insurance policies. So what policies cover, what they exclude, how claims are calculated, and other important services such as pre-approvals, which allows you to check whether or not an upcoming treatment will be covered or not. Next, we'll have a look at claiming. The different methods of submitting a claim and how to ensure your claim is processed as quickly as possible. And then finally, we'll have some time for Q&A at the end. Okay, so first of all, let's take a look at what is pet insurance. So pet insurance is a general insurance product, and it's in the same class or category as other insurance products such as home, motor, and travel insurance. Now, it does operate differently to human health insurance, so that is the key distinction there. Now, the purpose of pet insurance is to cover those unforeseen health emergencies which can cause significant financial burden for pet owners. And pet insurance really does provide peace of mind of knowing that your pet may be covered for those out-of-pocket expenses. Now, we don't want you to have to choose between money and making the best decisions for the health of your pet, so that's what we're here for. And while you may be able to budget for ongoing day-to-day expenses such as vaccinations and desexing, those routine things, so those unforeseen sicknesses or injuries that can really mount up to thousands of dollars in vet bills, and that's where pet insurance comes in. One case that I remember from clinical practice with a little Dachshund called Ralph. He unfortunately suffered from IBDD or intervertebral disc disease, so Dachshunds do a bit more prone to this condition, and resulted in little Ralphie being hospitalised and having spinal surgery for about a week, and that did cost $1,000. And if it wasn't for the pet owners at the time having pet insurance, it was unlikely that they were going to be able to afford Ralphie's treatment there for the best possible care. So just quickly to highlight, there is a range of different pet insurance policies out there from different pet insurance providers. So you can find detailed information about the different levels of cover on our website, so petsure.com.au/find a policy. In summary, there are some lower levels of cover, such as an accident-only policy, providing cover for stated accidents, ranging to more comprehensive levels of cover, which provide cover for accidents as well as illnesses, and then everything in between. Okay, so this is basically just taking a little bit more of a deep dive into some of those different levels of cover. So on the left-hand side, we've got that an accident-only policy. So an accident-only policy, as I mentioned previously, may cover things such as motor vehicle incidents, burns or electrocutions, and a number of other different accidental injuries there as defined by the policy. And then on the right-hand side, we've got an accident and illness policy, which is the more comprehensive policy. So that will cover those accidental injuries as defined by the policy, as well as illnesses such as cancer, eye and ear conditions, skin conditions, and a range of other things. Okay, so now that we've had a look at the different types of policies that are out there, we'll have a look at what's covered and what's not covered. Now, like all insurance products, the policies do have some exclusions, and that's in order to keep premiums reasonable. Now, we'd like to cover every expense you incur for your pet. However, this would increase the premium cost, and therefore we prefer to provide cover for those unexpected expenses relating to accidental injuries and illness, depending on the type of policy you've chosen there. So some of the things that aren't covered generally are things such as pre-existing conditions, which we'll cover off in a bit more detail in the coming slides. Elective procedures, so these are the things that you can plan for ahead of time and aren't unexpected. So again, things like desexing and vaccinations. Then grooming and bathing of your pet. Pet accessories such as toys, treats, crates, collars, leads, breeding and obstetrics, pet food, and then dental treatment are also sometimes exclusions of policies. Now, with dental treatment, some of our policies actually do include cover for dental conditions, and others may have an optional benefit that do provide a small benefit for dental treatment. So it's important to check your PDS and your certificate of insurance for your cover. And if you haven't got a policy started, if you're looking for dental cover, there is some of that available on some products, so make sure that you look for that when you're starting up a new policy if you don't already have a policy in place. All right, now having a look at premiums and how they're calculated. Now the premiums on the policies are calculated using a few details and a range of factors such as the breed and age of your pet, and importantly the type of cover you have chosen as well. So the comprehensive policy is obviously providing more cover there, so they're going to have a higher premium compared to the lower levels of cover that have less cover, so the premium will be cheaper for those. Now, to keep pet insurance fair for all our customers, particular breeds do pay a higher premium compared with breeds who are less prone to health concerns, with some breeds being prone to various health problems throughout their life, whereas others remain relatively healthy. Now, the premiums are calculated based on years of claims data, as well as veterinary data and information. So your premium will be affected by data relating to the health of pets that are a similar age and breed to your particular pet. For example, a 7-year-old Great Dane who's considered quite elderly will have different health concerns and health needs compared to a healthy 1-year-old Jack Russell Terrier, and different vet expenses at that time in their life. So you'd expect to pay a bit of a different premium for cover for those two pets. And you should also be aware that when your policy renews, the premiums are recalculated based on those factors. Now, premiums do increase as your pet ages, and that's due to two reasons. So first of all, the age of your pet increasing. So just like us humans, the older our pets get, the more likely they are to have health hiccups, with cats and dogs aging faster than we do. So that means that they're more likely to require veterinary treatment as they grow older. And as a result, the premiums increase to reflect that. Now, another factor is advancements in veterinary care and treatment. Now, in recent years, there has been advancements in medical treatment and surgical treatments available for veterinary patients. And that is a great benefit for our pets and has led to improved technologies and outcomes while we're treating our patients, which is great news. But they do come at a cost. So our premiums take into consideration those trends in the veterinary community as well. Okay, so having a look at some of the pet insurance lingo and terminology. So what is an excess? So you may be familiar with how excess applies on your car insurance policy. So it operates similarly. So you can choose to have an excess on your policy, and that will help to reduce the price of the premium there. So the excess is a sum that you pay once per condition, per policy period or each year. And the excesses typically range from $50 to $200. Now, the excess is deducted from your claim payment, and that's calculated by using your benefit percentage. So what is the benefit percentage? That's basically the percentage of reimbursements of those eligible vet expenses, which will be paid to you after the claim has been assessed and if it's been found to be eligible for cover there. So if you have $1,000 in vet expenses with an 80% benefit percentage, it's an $800 benefit. And if there's a $100 excess on the policy, the final benefit will be $700, and the out-of-pocket expenses will be $300 there. Okay, so taking a bit of a deep dive and closer look at pre-existing conditions. So pre-existing conditions means any condition or symptoms or signs of that condition occurring or existing in any form prior to the commencement of the policy or during any applicable waiting periods. Now, a diagnosis doesn't necessarily need to be made to assign a pre-existing condition on a policy. So looking at an example of that, so if your pet has limping or signs of lameness for, let's say, 2 months before a policy starts, and that lameness continues into the policy, and then the lameness has been diagnosed as a cruciate ligament condition. So cruciate ligament is one of the ligaments, important ligaments in the knee. And for all those football fans out there, this is actually one of the conditions which dogs and football players have in common. So football players often rupture their ACLs, so the cruciate ligament is the same thing. And it's common in dogs that they can actually rupture their cruciate ligaments as well. So in this example, the cruciate ligament would be considered a pre-existing condition because signs of that issue were present before the policy. Now, one of the best ways to avoid having pre-existing conditions on a policy is to take out a policy when your dog's young, and that means that there's less chance that there's going to be signs and symptoms of those conditions before the policy starts. Okay, now, even if there has been an exclusion on a policy for a pre-existing condition, there is a service available for policies to have a review of that pre-existing condition. Now, that is dependent on your vet certifying that your pet has been free of symptoms or recurrences of that condition or any other conditions arising from that condition up to the date of receipt of a pre-existing condition review form. And the period from the commencement of your policy up until completion of that form can be no less than 18 months from the original start date of the policy. So we have this pre-existing condition exclusion review form, so you can request that from your insurance provider and then get your vet to fill that out and send that back into us, and then we'll make an assessment on whether or not the exclusion can be removed. Now, there are some conditions where, unfortunately, an exclusion won't be removed. So, incurable chronic conditions or permanent conditions such as arthritis or diabetes, that exclusion may not be removed. But for those once-off acute things that are curable, such as if your pet has signs of limping caused just by a strain at or a soft tissue injury, and no other signs of that. And then also gastroenteritis. So if your dog's got it into the rubbish and eaten something it shouldn't have, an exclusion for that would be removed. Now, another thing to consider regarding pre-existing conditions is waiting periods. Now, each policy is different, but generally there is an illness condition waiting period between 20 to 30 days, and often a 6-month waiting period for cruciate ligament conditions. Now, the good news is you can make an application to waive that cruciate ligament waiting period. So again, there's a form that can be submitted to us, so you just need to get your vet to complete an examination of your pet to indicate that there's no signs of a cruciate condition or lameness. And then if we receive that form back within 14 days of that examination, that will be reviewed, and generally if there's no signs of lameness or issues, then that 6-month waiting period can be waived. Okay, so taking a look next at our pre-approval process or pre-authorization. Now, this is a fantastic service and it actually helps to provide peace of mind that treatment, if you've got upcoming treatment for your pet, that is going to be covered. Or we make an assessment on whether or not that will be covered for you. So again, this is a form that you can request through your insurer and complete this with your vet. So the top section here, you can see there to be completed by your vet. So outlining the name of the procedure. So let's say you've got an upcoming surgery for your dog that's going to cost $8,000 and you want to check to see whether or not that's going to be covered. So we have this pre-authorization form, take it into our vet, and they'll go through and complete this top section. And then we'll just complete the bottom section as the pet owner, which is basically a checklist to indicate that we've got all the required documents that we need so that pre-authorization can be completed successfully. So once we've completed that form, the other documents that we need is an estimate from the vet for the upcoming treatment or surgery. So your vet will print that off and you can send that into us with the completed pre-authorization form. And then also we need the veterinary history for your pet just to make an assessment on that pre-authorization. Now, good news is if you've already been submitting claims, very likely you've already submitted that history to us. So in those cases, no requirement to submit all your pet's vet history again. Just the completed pre-authorization form and estimate and more recent documents there. Now, once that has been submitted through to us, generally we provide an outcome within 2 business days. So we get a response back to you nice and quickly, whether or not that treatment will be eligible for cover. Now, pre-authorizations can also be submitted for our gap-only service. So we'll go into a little bit more detail about what gap-only is in the coming slides. Okay, so now we've gone through all the basics about pet insurance policies and how they operate and different terminology. So let's have a little bit more of a look about when it comes time to claim. Now, there's a number of different methods of submitting a claim through to us. Now, the first being direct from your vet. Now, some vets have the ability to submit their claim directly through to us through their practice management software, and this is known as an e-claim. Your vet will send the clinical records and invoices for the treatment associated with the claim directly through to us. Now, outside of gap only, this is the fastest way to claim and have your claims assessed. And it's available at more than 1,000 vets across Australia. Now, vet practice management software, there is lots of different options out there, and we need to integrate our claiming system with those different service and software providers. So we're trying to get to everyone, and that number is increasing sort of week on week as we get to more vets and have that functionality available. All right, now gap only is an exciting new service, and that basically works in partnership with vets and allows claims to be submitted on the spot while you're still at the vet, and as a pet owner, you'll only pay the gap, and that's the difference between the vet's invoice and what's covered under the policy. And this really helps to save on out-of-pocket expenses at the time of claim. And so that's the fastest way for a claim to be submitted and processed with us. We'll go through gap only in a little bit more detail in the coming slides. Now, next, moving on to the pet portal. This is a customer portal where you can log in to your computer or mobile phone or other device, and you can submit claims through that. So we'll go through that in a little bit more detail in the coming slides as well. finally, paper claims. So this is the first method that we had for having claims submitted, and that involves printing the invoice and the clinical records for the claim and posting them through to us. And so we can organise for all those documents from your vet and then pop them in the post. And obviously, if it's going by snail mail, that is the slowest way for a claim to get through to us. So the digital method, so logging on the pet portal or submitting directly through your vet or with Gap only, they're the fastest methods. And definitely do have a little bit less of an impact on the environment as well, as we're not required to print out all those paper documents. Okay, so once your claim's been submitted and it's been received, how much you get back depends on whether policy covers that treatment and some of the policy features that you've chosen. So we've spoken a little bit about the benefit percentage and how that works. So we'll just have a look at a few more examples there. So on the left-hand side here, we've got a basic care policy. So with this one, this policy has a 90% benefit percentage with a $1,000 annual condition limit. So the annual condition limit is the maximum benefit that can be paid per condition each year. With this claim, we had $1,500 of expenses claimed, a 90% benefit applied, so $1,350. So the annual condition limit is $1,000, so the benefit's $1,000, and that leaves us with an out-of-pocket expense of $500 off the $1,500. And then on the right-hand side, we've got a comprehensive policy with an 80% benefit and a $200 excess option. So on this claim is $8,000, an 80% benefit that totals $6,400, and with a $200 excess that reduces to a benefit of $6,200, and then the out-of-pocket expenses is $1,800. But the different pet insurance policies, those options can be configurable. So some you can choose your benefit percentage and the excess options as well. You can choose a $0 excess option. So it's up to you. And generally speaking, the price of the policy goes up. The higher the benefit, if there's more cover there. Now, all policies from PetSure do provide a $0 excess option, and the excess isn't mandatory. So totally something that's up to you when you're choosing what fits best with you. Now, when claims have been submitted through to us with all the required documents, they're generally settled within 5 business days, and then funds are transferred. If you've selected to have your funds paid into a bank account, generally after that 5 business days, the next business day following that, so nice and quick. If you have chosen to receive your reimbursements by cheque, that will take a little bit longer. But that is something that you can call your insurer to update that to have your claim payments paid into a bank account to get those claim benefits paid nice and quickly. All right, so introducing Gap Only. Now this is an extremely exciting new service, and I think it's actually Gap Only's first birthday this week. It's a very exciting day. And while I was working in clinical practice, this is one of those services that I really wish that it was available. I understood the challenges faced by pet owners who can on occasion be faced with large unexpected vet bills and having to worry about gathering money before pursuing a course of treatment and can cause some significant financial stress. Now, Gap Only works really well to minimise these upfront out-of-pocket expenses and to reduce that financial stress and really allows pet owners to focus on caring for their pets and choosing the best treatment options available is going to give the best outcome. Okay, so over the past 12 months, been busy getting vet partners up and running with Gap Only and a number of different pet insurance brands with that Gap Only service. So we can see here on the left the different pet insurance providers and brands where Gap Only is available. and then on the right-hand side, you've got a map of Australia and an indication of how many clinics are connected to that gap-only service. So how do you know whether or not your vet is enabled for that gap-only service? So if you jump online and go to gaponly.com.au, and then there's a searchable feature on there to have a look at each individual vet and whether or not they're switched on for gap-only. All right, now looking at gap-only and how it works. Okay, so if you've checked your vet is enabled for gap-only, and you've got to take your dog or kitty in for some treatment. So when you book your appointment, you can, when you call the vet to book that in, you can say, I've got a pet insurance policy that's enabled for gap-only and wanting to do a gap claim once I come in. Now, when you come in for your visit, if your pet's treatment is covered under the policy, your vet will lodge that gap-only claim for you in clinic, and then it's assessed on the spot there. Once the claim's been assessed and approved, if it's eligible for cover, you only pay the difference between the vet's invoice and what's covered under your pet insurance policy. So that's what's called the gap there. So let's just say your dog's gone in for an expensive surgery, $10,000. You've got a policy with 80% benefit percentage. So you would need to pay the 20% gap, so the $2,000. So you wouldn't need to pay the $10,000 up front. It would only be about 20%. So really greatly minimising those out-of-pocket expenses at the time of the claim there. Now, we spoke about pre-authorisations a little bit earlier on. Now, pre-authorisations are also available as part of the gap-only service. So if you want to find out eligibility of that treatment that your pet may need, your vet can contact our vet helpline to talk through the upcoming treatment and then get a pre-authorisation completed to find out whether or not that upcoming surgery or other treatment is going to be covered. Now, to learn more about gap-only, be sure to tune in to our upcoming webinar on the Wednesday, the 15th of July with our Senior Product Manager, Alex Walker. So gap-only is definitely his baby. So he knows everything about gap-only. So to find out more, make sure you tune in a couple of weeks and he'll go through in a lot more detail about how gap-only works and the key benefits there. All right, now having a look at the Pet Portal. Okay, so what is the Pet Portal? Now, the Pet Portal is a digital tool for pet insurance customers in order to submit your claims and access policy information. Now, the Pet Portals, they are fully mobile and tablet responsive as well. It's basically pet insurance policy summarised in one place for your convenience, so easily accessible any time of the day or night. Now, it's important to note that not all the Pet Portals have the same functionality, and the functionality is dependent on your insurance policy. So I'm going to highlight so most of the features available. However, some of these may not be available for your particular Pet Portal. So My Pet, so you've got detailed information about your cover, policy documents such as a product disclosure statement and certificate of insurance. Some have a help centre and frequently asked questions, and then also a My Profile section with your personal information, including banking details and the ability to update banking details there. All right, and to help with your pet insurance claims, make sure that we can process that as quickly as possible. When submitting a claim, ensure that you've got all your supporting documents with the claim, so the invoice and associated clinical records or consultation notes that you can get from your vet. Ensure that your banking information is up to date, and ensure that your vet's details are up to date so that we can contact your vet if we need further information about a claim for any reason. Okay, so this is just having a look at the pet portal, how it looks in action. So this is submitting a claim. So we can see here on the left-hand side, we can upload the invoices and consultation notes and other associated documents that may be relevant, such as X-ray results. Okay, now this shows how submitting a claim looks on a mobile device on the left-hand side. As we've touched on previously, be sure to provide your vet details there. So your current vet, any prior vets as well. As we can see here on the right-hand side, we've got Fluffy's policy, and we've got Happy Pets Veterinary Clinic, Spring Valley Vet Hospital, and then Rhodes Veterinary Hospital. So on some of the portals, you can provide your vet's details and allows us to contact them should we need to do that. Okay, then one of the features of some portals is the ability to track and manage claims. So this does show historical claims, and the outcomes of your claims are visible as well. Okay, so on this screen, we can see our policy documents. So we've got a certificate of insurance documents up the top here for Fluffy and Rover. So certificate of insurance documents contain the key policy features, and the product disclosure statement contains the terms and conditions of the policy. And then in the middle section here, we can see claim documents. And these are the claim documents for Fluffy. So we can see the remittance advice and claim outcome information for Fluffy there for those previously lodged claims. All nice and easily accessible and very easy to use. Okay, now a final feature of some pet portals is a frequently asked questions section, which looks at common frequently asked questions regarding the portal itself and how it works, the functionality, as well as FAQs regarding the policies, such as frequently asked questions about certain terms and conditions and things like that. Okay, so we've had a look at the pet portal. Let's move along to the important policy documents. So your policy documents are really important documentation that you receive when the policy first starts, and then at each renewal as well. For every year when the policy renews, you'll be issued with a new certificate of insurance and a PDS with any associated updates. So another bit of terminology, SPDS is a supplementary product disclosure statement. So that's if there's any changes to the terms and conditions. So you may receive those when the policy renews as well. So very important to read through those documents when you first start the policy and each year as well. Fully understand your cover, and that ensures that you're informed about what is and isn't covered, and so there's no surprises when it comes time to claim. So the certificate of insurance, now that outlines the key features of the policy, including the annual benefit limit, sublimits, the excess, the premium, and you and your pet's details and information. And important that you check the certificate of insurance because some of those details, your and your pet details, does influence the impact on the cost of the premium. Next, the product disclosure statement. So this is the complete terms and conditions of the policy. It includes a range of information regarding policy definitions, how premiums are calculated, the claims process, and contact details and other information. All right, so here's just an example of a certificate of insurance. If you haven't seen one, if you may not have a pet insurance policy, but if you've got a policy, then you've likely definitely have seen one. So up the top here, we've got the pet details, so name, species, gender, date of birth and breed, and then moving along to the policy details. So your policy number, when we're logging into the pet portal and registering, we need to get our policy number. So That's where you can find your policy number and the certificate of insurance, the selected cover that we have in place, when the policy commenced, and important to note that policies generally commence at 11:59 p.m. On the first day of cover, and generally last for a 12-month period. Then here we can see the level of cover, so we've got a benefit percentage of 80%, and then under that, the premium details. So frequency of the premium. So with premiums, you can choose to pay them in instalments on a monthly, fortnightly basis, or if you prefer, on an annual basis. And then the method of payment there. Now, the actual premium details itself underneath aren't shown on this picture here. And moving across to the right-hand side, we have the annual benefit limit and sub-limits for this policy. So we can see here there's an overall annual benefit limit of $10,000. That's the most that can be claimed in 1 year. And then there's also sub-limits for paralysis, tick treatment, emergency boarding, consultation fees, cruciate ligament conditions, and skin conditions. So each policy is different, and as we've spoken about, there's a range of different policy options. So your certificate of insurance will reflect the cover that you've selected and have in place there. Okay, and lastly, we always have a great range of pet insurance tips and tricks on our website and social media platforms. So for more tips on pet insurance, we have a great range of resources and videos. So jump onto our website, and this covers off a lot of what we've spoken tonight, and there's some great videos up there as well. So if you want to go back and get more detail or more information, jump onto the website. And we also share frequent updates regarding gap only on our social media channels, as well as other pet insurance updates. Okay, so that brings us to the end of my webinar for tonight.
Great, thank you so much, Dr. Conradi. So now we've got a few questions that have come through. So the first question is, the attendee is wondering what the difference is between pet insurance and a wellness plan that might be offered.
Okay, yeah, really great question. So wellness plans are offered by vets. So they're basically a subscription service from vets for which you pay a regular instalment. So often it'll be a yearly instalment. However, sometimes they can be in monthly instalments. It really depends on the vet. And they often provide benefits for routine type treatments, such as anti-parasitic treatment, so your flea, tick or worm control. So you may you pay your subscription and then you'll get those treatments throughout the year. Sometimes they also provide some free or complimentary consultations. And there is a range of these wellness plans available, and they do vary and dependent on what's been developed for each individual vet. So different to pet insurance, whereas pet insurance is there as an insurance product, providing cover for accidental injuries and illnesses.
Perfect, thanks so much for that. And the next question is, this attendee is wondering if they can change their excess at any time during their policy. So for example, would they be able to decrease their excess on a policy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that is something that people do commonly if their individual circumstances change and they originally wanted to have the excess on there to have a bit of a lower premium, and then want to remove that. So you can contact your insurer to change your policy to remove that excess. However, that is dependent on whether or not you've submitted a claim against the policy. So generally, if there's been a claim made in the policy year, you can't change the policy and remove that excess until the renewal date, and then you can change at that renewal date.
Okay, great, thanks, Ollie. And then the next question is, can they upgrade their policy even if they've claimed on the policy previously? So they want to increase their average annual benefit.
Yeah, so similar to with an excess, so if you've made a claim under the policy, then you can't change the policy, either the excess or the cover until the renewal date there.
Perfect, thanks, Ollie. And then another question here is, do insurers offer multi-pet discounts if we've got multiple pets in the same household that the pet parent would like to insure?
Yep, great question. And it's really dependent on the pet insurance policy that you have, but it is common for pet insurance policies to have a multi-pet discount. So if you have multiple pets and they're insured with the same insurer, there are policies out there that provide a bit of a discount on your premium generally for having two pets insured with the one brand there.
Okay, perfect. And then another attendee is wondering why their vet isn't able to lodge claims online.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's a whole range of different providers for vet practice management software, and yeah, there's quite a lot in Australia. So as I touched on briefly earlier, we're trying to connect our claim system with all those different providers, and so your vet potentially may be on one of those bits of software that isn't connected with our claiming system, unfortunately. So that means the quickest way to get a claim to us would be to jump onto the pet portal and submit that digitally to us. But yeah, we're definitely making efforts to attempt to get to all the different software providers for vets, so that we can enable all vets out there, so those claims can be submitted through to us. But yeah, definitely going to take a bit of time. But yeah, we're getting there.
Perfect. And then this is an interesting question. So they're wondering if there are specific vets that we're affiliated with. So as an example, some dentists might be affiliated with Bupa, and if the dentist is affiliated with Bupa, they may get more of a benefit for visiting that dentist. Is there a similar arrangement with vets?
Yeah, so no, there isn't. So yeah, there's no sort of what's referred to as preferred providers. Yeah, where you can choose which vet you go to, and your policy cover will be the same, irrespective of which vet you attend. So there's no sort of arrangement like that.
Excellent. And then there's a question regarding gap only. So the question is there a minimum amount that can be processed through gap only? So for example, if this pet parent goes to their veterinarian and the invoice is only $60, if the vet offers gap only, can that potentially be processed as a gap only payment?
Yeah, certainly. So yeah, there's no kind of minimum there for gap only claims. So everything from consultation for an ear infection, a follow-up for if dog's got skin allergies and it's just a quick recheck and maybe some medication, no lower threshold there. So yeah, that gap only service is available for any size claim regarding the value there.
Great, Ollie. And then we've got a pet parent from Tasmania, my favourite state in Australia, and they're wondering if there's any plans to potentially increase the gap only being offered in Tassie, as they're finding it hard to find a gap only vet.
Yeah. Well, hello from Tasmania, and I haven't visited Tasmania myself, but I definitely want to get down there, and hopefully it's nice and warm down there at the moment. But yeah, at the moment we're working with vets and really wanting to get as many vets connected as possible. As I understand, it's an invaluable service, and I'd encourage you to have a chat with your vet if your local vet isn't connected on to gap only, and just really highlight those benefits there, and then hopefully that'll help with your vet's motivation to look into getting that gap only service connected. Definitely recommend jumping online in 2 weeks' time as well with Alex Hawker. His team is basically managing and responsible for getting vet clinics connected onto that service. So yeah, if you jump online with him, you can tell him directly, and then I'm sure him and his team will make their best efforts to look at getting your vet signed up.
Perfect. Thanks, Ollie. And then we have a pet parent who's asking about pre-authorization. So their pet unfortunately requires some surgery, and they're wondering what the average time frame to get a response once a pre-authorization is submitted.
Yeah, so the average time frame is within 2 business days. Now, if you do have something that's if your pet requires urgent treatment, you can call into the customer service department for your pet insurance brand and request for that to be prioritised. You need to answer sooner, but generally get within 2 business days, so very quickly there for you.
Perfect. That's great, Ollie. Thank you so much. And thanks once again for all of those questions. We hope you enjoyed the session. A very special thank you to Dr. Conradi for putting today's presentation together and for giving up his time to share his knowledge and experience with us. Please remember to register for the next Pause and Learn webinar hosted by Alex Hawker on Gap Only. If you'd like to learn more about Gap Only, PetSure, or the Pause and Learn webinar series, please follow us on social or visit our website. Good evening, pet parents.